All right, so I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but with the New Year's, okay, that's exactly why I shouldn't be trusted with my own tennis shoes. Falls over on my first recording. Cool. All right, so that was take one, I guess. But the New Year's resolutions and goals, one of the things that I added to mine was to do something new each month. So 12 different things throughout the year that I've never done before. And kind of go through them and document it. And I almost got killed just now by a car that doesn't put on his blinkers. So the first thing for January that I wanted to do was do a video blog, which I've never done before. Done some writing and some blogging, but never the video versions of that. And so I'm not really sure what I want to do with it, but in the resolution I wrote up, I wanted to try something. I wanted to discuss a subject that was maybe something personal to me, in an effort possibly to get assistance or feedback, or maybe just for self-therapy to talk things out.
It was you and it was me. I had everything I needed. Faith could even move a mountaintop.
It's about 7 o'clock right now in the morning, heading to work. But I figured the only time I'd really have to be able to talk about this was the commute. As when I'm back to the house, is usually a lot of noise with the kids and stuff. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was the subject of anxiety. It's been a ongoing topic for the last 5 to 6 years of my life. But it's kind of showed up in a little bit of different ways recently. And so I thought I'd talk a little bit about that, my feelings, my thoughts, and some of the experiences and troubles I'm having in and around anxiety, possibly depression, things like that.
And then I got older, and my life got tough, and we grew apart.
Anxiety, it's a tough subject. Growing up, I was always taught that anxiety or depression or anything that was mental was a sign of weakness or a sign of lack of faith. And so I always saw that as an excuse that people would use rather than something that was real. I saw it as a way to get out of responsibility or laziness even. If anyone ever said they felt depressed or had anxiety or couldn't function, I automatically assumed that that was just them being too weak. When it showed up in my life early on, I didn't know how to identify it because of the way I was brought up and taught. I had a belief that that was just me being too weak and not having enough faith in God or enough faith in myself. For several years, I buried those feelings of depression and anxiety as good as I could. Figured anything I was feeling that had to do with anxiety or stress or depression was just me not trusting God enough. All those things were put into a box. But about 6 years ago, that box was crushed and opened and all of its contents dumped out, and I was left to kind of figure out, what do I do with all of this emotion now? And I found out that depression is more than just some type of word or excuse, but it's a real thing, and the anxiety lives with me to this day. And so I was going to talk about a few of the ways that it showed up. I'm kind of struggling with it. So here's me being honest. What's really weird is there's literally like a 1 minute and 32 second window of leaving my house and trying to get to work that can change from a 12-minute commute to 4.5 hours. So as I left at 7:15, and now there's traffic like that. But if I were to have left at 7:13, I would have been at work already. I'm trying to listen to Christian music and drink this sweet tea. and be in a good mood. But the anger monkeys are coming out. I have anxiety and anger monkeys. My own form of AA. I like traffic. Seriously? This is how you park? So how am I supposed to squeeze my big... This is my life. I remember when I was first hearing this song, I was like, oh, walking from side to side. And it didn't make sense. I was thinking like, maybe she was drunk, or maybe she was doing like burpees. And I did a little research online and found out that little Grande was getting her grande. So much so that she was walking from side to side. The song's dirty. You're dirty, Ariana. I'm wearing my sunglasses right now, although I don't really need to. Right now it's about 6 o'clock, heading home. And I'm trying to figure out why the hell my hair looks like I have a receding hairline, like I'm going bald. I don't feel like it. And I have like this weird grease wave. Trying to figure out what's going on in my life. About 6 years ago, when we lost our daughter, that was the first time that anxiety and depression showed up, and it wouldn't be ignored. We lost our daughter, I was in a tailspin, and at first I assumed it was just grief. And the first signs that it was something more was that I automatically understood the frailty of life. Because in my own personal life, I really haven't lost anyone in my immediate family outside of my grandparents. The reality of death was instant. And suddenly things I was sure of, including my own health and my other children and my wife, that they would always be here, was kind of ripped out from underneath. My wife, and she didn't respond right away. I automatically would check websites to see if there was a car crash. If my son started to get a cough or a fever, I was automatically online trying to find out how long he had to live. All the way to myself, to where if I started to feel sick, I immediately had cancer, or I only had a few months to live, and I would go through preparing my will mentally, and how are my kids going to make it without me, and what's going to happen. For the most part, that kind of went away. And just would show up every once in a while in different situations. I started to identify it as anxiety, but I still thought it was a weakness, and so I didn't really seek any type of medical help or anything at the beginning. It started to grow beyond my children, or my wife not responding to a phone call, or me feeling sick. If I started to think one thing, my mind would latch onto it and begin to put all my senses on high alert. One time I was in a theater with my son watching a movie, but I thought I smelled some type of gas in the air. I could literally feel like the theater closing in on me and getting darker. And it was weird because I heard one of the other people that were there in the theater cough. And then I could hear another person cough. And I heard like maybe 7 to 8 different people coughing right after each other. And I could feel myself needing to cough and thinking that my own breath was being cut off. I could feel my chest getting tight. And it was almost to the point to where I stood up to leave, but I couldn't stand. It was almost, I was paralyzed by the fear, and I had to wait for it to completely pass. It must have only lasted maybe 2 or 3 minutes, but it felt like an hour. It just felt like a long time. This has grown into something more than just, hey, I lost a child and so I'm scared of death. It was starting to spread, and it was getting really scary. Now waiting for my son to get out of practice from basketball. I'm tired. 7:30 now, guys. I've been up for 12 hours. I've actually been in this car 12 hours. Not 12 hours straight, but I got in this car 12 hours ago. This is harder to do than I thought. I'm trying to see how you keep the thoughts to be consistent. I'm talking about anxiety and then Ariana Grande. I guess once I discovered that the anxiety was spreading into other parts of my life that had nothing to do with my daughter, I knew I had something serious going on, and that's when I first decided to go see a doctor about it. My belief was that if I ended up on medication, I was somehow less of a dad or less of a husband or less of a Christian or less of a person. Share my thoughts with the doctor, and then to have him prescribe and diagnose me was even worse, because then it kind of had a realness to it that I wasn't expecting. And I think I went through the first bottle of pills pretty quickly. It was so bad at the beginning that I just wanted those feelings to go away. And the medicine worked, but that's when it really got scary, because then I had already heard stories about people getting hooked on medications and things like that, and so I felt I was going to be always have to be doped up to be able to function in life. Those first few days were kind of scary, but I got through that part, and then the anxiety started to show up in places outside of even that, social environments and around people I knew. It was just getting worse, so I'll continue to talk about that. Comes this guy right here. Look at this guy. This big old nerd. Been balling all day. Nerd. Big baller. If you have any insight on anxiety, or maybe what you've experienced, you can share. Or you can just poke fun at this video. It's up to you. But that's it for day one. Straight up to my face. I've been down so long it look like represent that Breaking Bad, y'all. Later, guys.